$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Super NES podcast, episode 112, coming at you this time. Our first episode in 2019. I certainly hope everybody had some good holidays. We are back into it a little bit later than usual, like real life issues, but hey. We will make up for our lost time with an extra special episode for you. Like, isn't that right, George?
Sure.
Yes. For you new listeners out there, I'm Greg. He is George. George does not say very much at the start. Don't worry, he warms up.
Like a roaring fire.
Yes.
Put the log on the fire and drink your hot cocoa. I don't know.
You could be a real Firestriker like when you get going there, George.
I'm a Firestriker. Mr. Firestriker.
So yes, that's the name of the game we're covering this episode, Firestriker, which was George's pick. And boy, oh boy, this is a very unique, weird, quirky, strange, whatever like weird word you want to use for it, game.
Are we talking about me or the game?
I was talking about the game, but
okay.
if you're applying it to yourself, you may want to seek professional help.
I mean, I don't have time to get into society and what society thinks, but sure.
So, I never heard about this. Yeah, I never heard of this game, George. How'd you find out about this?
Internet.
Okay.
I say, Internet, find me an SNES game. And it says, here is your SNES game. It is Firestriker. And I say, oh, what is this? And then I play it. Oh, this is kind of cool.
Were you looking for anything? Were you looking for anything specifically, or did you just happen to come up randomly like in a list?
So when I look for games for podcasts, I do it differently for each podcast. For this one, I kind of just randomly find SNES games without looking for them. On PlayStation Power, I actually scout out games and search for games on lists. So that is a bunch of me playing random games for half an hour or so. And then Master System Masterpieces, I text Paul and I say, hey, what game do you want to do? So those are the different ways that I find games for the podcast that I do.
Oh, okay.
My favorite one is asking Paul, hey, what do you want to do?
Okay, that works.
Yep.
So if you've not heard of this game before, like me, do not feel bad because this is a pretty obscure game. It was probably one of the most difficult games to do research on that I've covered so far in the podcast because all the companies involved with it are very small companies that did not really do too much out here in the West. So I will share what little I'll share what little I was able to find about it. First of all, this game is really hard to pigeonhole into one kind of genre. One of the reviewers of this game out there, one of the few reviews of this game I could find, called this game "What happens if you take Zelda, Pinball, Arkanoid, and Gradius, mix them all up, and bake them in the oven for 350 degrees for half an hour." So
mark it in the oven for a baby and me.
And it's the most accurate description I think of because this game does kind of have a bit of each.
I don't know where Gradius really comes into play, but
when
we were playing this game before we started recording, I definitely told you this seems like Breakout and Pinball put together.
Right. Yeah.
So
Zelda comes in because I see
the Zelda part because you're a guy with a sword who's hitting a ball. So so
I'd argue Gradius probably comes in because of the boss fights and also because of the
okay.
And also because of the limited power ability that you can do in this game. So
power up stuff is kind of just like more of filling a meter for the power that you already have.
Right. Well, yeah.
Whereas Gradius is more like you're trying to get to new powers, essentially. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Am I being a little too ridiculous with saying that's not that similar?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah? Okay, sorry.
So we talked about before off mic about how many Japanese games in this time period were renamed for the West. Happened this game too.
Oh no! What was the original name? Like Devil Summon Dragon Fireball. What was it?
No, it wasn't that bad, but I can understand why they changed it. Like Japan, this game is known as Holy Striker.
Okay, that's actually not a very good name. And then them changing it to Firestriker makes kind of more sense, but also still not a super great name.
Yeah, I think they wanted to try to avoid like the word holy because of the religious implication that it implied, which was a no-no during this time period. So,
everybody would get their underwear in a twist.
So this game was originally released in Japan in December 1993 and came out in North America like October 1994. Did not get a power release. There are 3 companies involved with this game. The developer of the game is a company called Axis Art Amuse, which sounds like a very
terrible name. That's what it sounds like.
a very like a very Japanese attempt to sound English kind of name. So
I'm gonna make a video game company. I'm gonna call it Video Game Company.
So most of their stuff was not released here in the West. They were active. Well, I really couldn't tell you exactly for sure when they were active because, like I said, there was not a lot of information out there, online, about this company. They were around at least from 1995 to 2013.
Oh wow!
So they appear to be defunct now at this point. I thought their last game was actually 2002, so 2013 may be kind of a stretch. But
that seems like a big stretch if their last title was like 02.
But their first game was a game you may have played, George, City Connection, like the NES.
Doesn't ring a bell.
It's a very unique, quirky game, but also fun, in which you are a car driver on city streets with a horizontal perspective, and your job is to paint every block, like every pixel of road in that city to advance, and you have to do
that
jumps.
Sounds weird.
Yeah, well, this company loved to do like weird games. So
when we said paint the town red, we didn't literally mean paint the town red.
And you can jump over gaps, jump over enemies, and fire paint cans, take care of enemies and that kind of stuff.
That just sounds really strange.
It's a pretty fun game. I mean, it's difficult. It takes a while to get used to, but it's like pretty good game. I always liked it. They released they released. Firestriker was their only Super NES game that came out in North America. They also did some 3DO and 3DO PlayStation games, along with also Saturn. The Casio Loopy, which of course Japanese only. That was one of the more obscure systems. They only had 3 games that came out in North America out of their library. City Connection, Firestriker, and their last game, 2013, was an iOS game called Marsh Hunt.
Do you hunt marshes or?
I'm sorry. I misread that. It's Mush Hunt.
That clears it all up. Right. What is this game?
It's an action game. That's all I can tell you.
Do you hunt mushy? Do you hunt slimes? Are they mushy?
The picture kind of looks like a slime, I guess.
Are you to eradicate the slime race?
So anyway, this company loved to do weird games, so I guess it's like it's no shock there. The Japanese publisher of this game is a company called Hect, HECT.
Hey, you can't say that on this podcast. I'm telling Mom.
Well, that's why I spelled it. But they I could not find much information at all about them. So at least that is absolutely nothing. So, but at least North American company, at least the North American publisher, I found something about. In North America, this game was published by a company called DTMC, which I'm sure stands for something, but I could not find out what it was. They were active
down to Master Contra.
They only publish games for short. They only publish games for a very short period, very short time period, 1992 until 1994. But in that time period, they covered but in that time period, they published 8 games that kind of burned brightly and then died very quickly. So, they published games for the Game Boy, Super NES. That's it. Just those 2 systems. Beyond this, they also published California Games 2 for the Super NES. They also published a Sumo Fighter game for the Game Boy. And they also published some platformers such as Rama and a Half Hard Battle, The Adventures of Dr. Franken, and Lester Dan Likely.
God.
So I can see why this company did not last very long in the publishing business.
They published mostly bad games.
But no, I mean, but if anything, Firestriker was a pretty good. Firestriker was a pretty good signing for them because this game is very unique. There is a story in this game. You are basically a wizard who is tasked with the typical fantasy trope of having to go on a quest to defeat a whole bunch of bosses and restore freedom and good to the world. So, however, you are not a cool wizard firing magic. You are not a warrior with a sword. Instead, you bounce a fireball around the stage in a very pinball-like manner. Trying to get the ball to destroy certain blocks and clear the path so you can shoot the ball up off the top of the screen before you lose your protection blocks like a flipper on the bottom of the screen and the ball drains. If that happens, you lose a life, and then after 3 lives, you have to use one of your 5 continues.
It's like the game's laid out like Breakout, but it plays like pinball, except the flippers are able to move around the board.
Yeah, somewhat. I kind of think of that stone wall at the bottom of the screen as being your flipper because it kind of gives you protection. It bounces the ball back.
No, that would be more like the pin in the middle between the flippers.
Oh, okay. Well, I suppose.
Yeah, see?
That works.
and even if you're playing single player, you have 2 characters that you control, so they can kind of be seen as the flippers.
Yes. Well, that second character, you don't actually control him directly, do you? Because
yes, you do. You use the shoulder buttons to move them left and right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, so...
And he automatically hits the ball if it gets close enough, so...
So your basic strategy for most stages is position him in a way...
Is to hit the ball.
Right.
Make sure the ball doesn't go down.
Yep, exactly. So he's kind of like your extra guard to make sure the ball doesn't drain on you.
Unless you're playing 2 players, then there are times where you can... or multiple players, you could screw yourself over and nobody's protecting the bottom and it just goes through and it's like, oh... That's kind of something that happened to us a couple of times, Greg.
Yep, unfortunately. But, George said multiplayer there a moment ago. This is one of the few Super NES games to support the multiplayer tab. So you can have up to 4 people playing this at once.
This would be a great party game. You get 3 friends and you play some multiplayer and maybe do a little drinking.
So, you can go on a quest either single player or multiplayer, like George said. I don't think there's any differences between. I should say there's very few differences. I noticed at least in the game between first player and second player. Between single player and multiplayer modes. Multiplayer mode does not have that life indicator at the top of the screen that single player does.
It's at the bottom.
Well, I was going to say it depends. In boss fights, for example, it's at the top, but during normal stage play, right, it's on the bottom.
Yeah, so. normal stage play is at the bottom, and then your health bar goes to the top during the boss fight.
Yep. So you can pick from one of 6 different characters. They don't have any differences. At least not.
I didn't notice any, but the you can only select 2 from the beginning, and then
right.
the rest of them you have to unlock. Which this game is tough, so that is
Yes.
you have to put in so many hours in this game just to get anywhere. Just because
Right.
if you lose 3 times, then you got to use a continue, and then that brings you all the way back to the map screen. And
Yeah, that's a big flaw. This game. This game does have some flaws. Which we're talking about here. Like later on. Also, you have to also in single player mode. Here's the difference. In single player mode, you're forced to use certain characters in certain stages.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So, and there's one difference. Golem, Garum, who is the golem, appropriately enough, the robot, is very, very slow. So he's noticeably slower than the other characters are. So
Oh boy,
that's the only difference I can find between the characters.
that doesn't sound fun.
No, it's not.
If anything, I wanted to be faster, so making me slower is going to make it even worse.
Right.
Like I said, there
So-
should be a run button, because sometimes the ball goes so fast, but you need to chase it, and you're not
Right.
fast enough, so, next thing you know, it's bouncing off of or going through something you didn't want it to
Right.
hit or go through.
So the flights of the controls in this game are pretty simple. You can use either the pad like the L and R buttons to move your guy around. The L and R button has the advantage of it actually moves you literally left and right. So if you're trying just simply to slide over in time to save the ball from draining, it's very handy. So the A button will cause your character to spin around. And if you make contact with the ball at any point during your spin, the ball gets hit off in the direction that you were hitting it from.
But that's all that does. You cannot fight enemies or break blocks.
Exactly. So, or for that matter, like open up chests. There are chests in the game, and you have to use the fire. You have to hit it with the. Hit the fireball to open it up. If you touch if you touch the chest annoyingly enough, it causes you damage.
Yep.
So-
Fun fact.
Yep. The chest real quick, just contain things like a powerball. You can have up to 3 powerballs. They increase the damage your ball does to blocks, enemies, and bosses. You can also find hearts, which fill your health, to fill your health gauge. And I think it's different power-ups. I think it's just.
I haven't seen any others, so.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Curiously enough, the B button does the B button does the same thing as the A button, but you can't use the B button right away. Right away, start of the stage. It doesn't turn on, quote unquote, until you have to, and you're playing the stage for a little bit. I don't know why that is.
I don't know.
The Y button causes a power shot, which causes the ball to fly directly upwards, and it will cut through all obstacles which can be destroyed. It won't necessarily kill them, but at least the ball won't get knocked out of the way. So, and any blocks that take more than one hit will instantly vaporize with a power shot. You only have a few of them each stage, so use them carefully.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry. There are some other power-ups. They're not. There's a difference between the hearts. The hearts come in different sizes. There is the small heart and the large heart.
Is there a telltale heart?
No, there's not.
Dang it.
Also after beating each boss. I'm sorry. There are 6 life boxes in the game, which will increase your maximum health. Your maximum health by 1 heart. 4 of them you get after beating the 4 bosses. The other 2 of them are prizes for going through optional dungeons. Did you know there was optional dungeons in this game, George?
Yeah, I saw them.
Okay, yeah. So if you decide to venture through them, your prize for doing so would need a life box. So it's up to you if it's worthwhile or not.
I just realized my telltale heart joke is like a joke for 2 things now. You remember because Telltale Games went out of business?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were referring to.
No, I was referring to the Edgar Allan Poe story.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good joke if 2 people can. If 2 people can get
That
different
all
meanings out
2
of it.
listeners can laugh at.
You also get you also if you've used one of your three power shots, you also have a chance to get a power shot back in one of the chests. And there's also like a very rare one-up you can also find occasionally.
Oh, I wish they would be more occasionally. We go through lives like it's, I don't know, crackers. What goes real? The money, the economy in this country. I'm sorry,
Right.
That was a bad joke. Anyway,
So there are 12 stages altogether in this game, which are represented on a map. There's an overworld map that you can move your character around on. And each stage represented by an obstacle, whether it's like, a castle, a tree, a house, like whatever. So once you're in a stage, you have to stay in the stage as you finish it. Each stage has a varying number of rooms, from anywhere from 2 to 4 rooms. So they all go vertical. You start at the bottom, like work your way up. And then of course there's also the optional that I mentioned before. There's also the optional stages that you can go through. The 4 stages have bosses in them. So, and then finally, of course, you have like your final boss fight, like they did in like stage 12. So, the graphics of this game are pretty good. They're very like cute, cartoony graphics. Again, these graphics are really like reminding me of like Zelda, as far as like how they
chibi.
look. Yeah, a little bit. Bright colors, like very nice. Good detail on the characters, I thought. So, the fireball looks like a fireball. It pulses some, so that's kind of like a cool effect.
Yes, it goes on fire.
Music in this game is pretty good for what it is. It's not great, but it's very appropriate for the stages, I thought. Some stages, obviously you're gonna like some stage music is better, they're better than others, but they tried to make the music kind of fit the overall theme of the stage, what it looked like and that kind of stuff. So that's like a cool touch. Not great music, but decent music like what it is.
Fitting music.
Yeah.
I almost said fitting fire for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Sound effects are pretty like forgettable. They're like typical average stuff. So, So the game is like I mentioned before is very unique. Being developed by a small company, being published by a small company, it did not get like very much press. Curiously enough, however, GamePro did give the game like a review. Being the only major magazine I could find of the time period which actually did cover the game, and they liked it. They basically said that it was a very unique and interesting take, like a breakout style gameplay, and that the addition of the action gameplay elements like powers of bosses really enhanced the game's depth and replay value. Their biggest complaint of the game is something that we've not talked about yet because we haven't talked about the bad parts about this game yet. But the screen, the screen, depending upon the size of the stage, will either like stay. Sometimes, let me back up and try saying it again. Sometimes the screen scrolls depending upon how big the stage is. And they commented how it could be very easy to lose track of the ball or the player. The other player can scroll off the screen when the ball, the screen scrolls, and that was their biggest complaint about the game. And
I could tell a couple of times when we were playing that you lost track of the ball, because I lost track of the ball a couple of times as well.
Yeah. Plus also the fact doesn't help when one player's at the top and another player's at the bottom and scrolls off the screen, so you can't see the player.
Yeah, it's hard to see where you are sometimes because the other player will be like, all right, well, I'll hang back and make sure it doesn't, come down here, and that's like, I can't see myself. Oh my god, where's the ball? What's going on?
Yep.
Might as well just wear a blindfold, right?
I mean, I understand why they did it that way. They're trying to make the stages bigger, but I frankly would have preferred smaller stages, smaller stages that didn't require the scrolling.
Or maybe do the scrolling better.
How do you do that though? Like horizontally, like it's vertically?
I wonder if that would. Do you think that would do better than the vertical scroll?
I think so. Yeah, because I think
Okay.
it's kind of a bit easier to be able to see, to be able to keep players on screen easier that way. I think if it was horizontal instead. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but
I don't know.
anyway, yeah,
That'd be an
yeah,
interesting idea.
Right. So, modern reviews of the game are pretty mixed, but like overall. But generally speaking, the game is like pretty good reviews. Most people do love how quirky and unique that the game is, and it's very unique. I can honestly say I've never played anything like this before. It's a very weird mashup between Breakout and Pinball, and it kind of has the best elements of both of them. It also, unfortunately, has some of the worst elements of both of them, which is probably a good time to talk about some of the bad points of this game. We've already covered some of them already. Hit detection definitely seems to be wonky. You and I both ran into that problem.
Yes. I don't think it's as bad as you say, but I definitely noticed something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, your hit ability with your character is very, very limited. That circle he does when you attack is very small. It's very, you have to really wait until the ball's on the top of you to be able to hit it.
Yeah. That can make it hard for timing or
Right.
something else. You might be in a situation where the ball comes back to you pretty quickly, and you gotta time it right to hit it. So
right. The ability to run in this game, even a small doses, that would have been great. I mean, if you could have the ability as a power up, for example, just to run, I think that would have added some pretty some pretty good gameplay to the game. If you kind of had to time your dashes at the same way you timed your power up shots to be able to get around, because your character is very slow moving, and that kind of makes it a bit frustrating sometimes trying to get the right position to hit the ball.
So I just figured out that there is something called the fake swap glitch for this game. This is a speedrun tactic. So the message says, for the glitch to work, you need to have one character unlocked, doesn't matter which one. If you're in the character select screen after that, you have exactly one frame where the game lets you select everyone, even the characters you haven't unlocked yet. So you can do a left or right input on that very frame. It's the frame where the dot after the A appears. So it's
cool.
one frame glitch, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a handful of people who actually speedrun this game.
Because
the one player any %, the fastest run is 18 minutes 55 seconds. The two player any %, actually done by the top two players, is 17 minutes 39 seconds. And then the one player any % fake swap is 17 minutes 45 seconds.
Wow,
Essentially you could beat this game in about 20 minutes.
Wow, those are amazing times.
Yeah, considering what kind of game this is, and I think we spent 20 minutes trying to beat the first boss.
Well, I mean, it makes sense though, because if you know what you're doing, this is not particularly. Because if you know what you're doing, and you're good at the game.
I guess if you're good at the game, it won't take that long, right?
Yeah. The long play video on this on YouTube is just an hour long, so I mean,
yeah.
18 minutes. I definitely could see doing it. So. I did find one cheat code for this game that would be very handy.
Oh. Is
if
there
you enter
infinite lives or something?
No, but it's pretty good. Good anyway. If you in the middle of the game, if you're playing a normal stage, if you push L, R, start, and select at the same time, you immediately warp to the next level. If you use this code while facing a boss, it instantly codes that boss for you.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so good code.
Yeah.
But so a couple other gripes. I wish there was the ball. The ball has some of the same problem that a real pinball does sometimes. Sometimes that, depending on the physics of it, can cause the ball to get very slow or trapped, and it's very hard to be able to get a good angle or position to be able to hit it again correctly. So that kind of carries over like flavor pinball. I wish there was. I wish there was a little bit. Just be personally. I'm not sure if you feel this way, George. The gameplay idea about having to hit blocks several times and destroy them to get a shot to get the ball off the top of the screen to move on is cool. But I wish different stages had different things you had to do to advance, and not just like the same formula again and again and again.
There are some.
There are some slight variations, true, like the door.
Yeah, you saw, what was it, the one with the doors? You have to hit the doors open. That one's a pain in the butt. I'd rather just break the blocks then, if that was the case.
Yep, I agree with you there.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Maybe if it was like, there's one where you have to kill all the enemies and then you can move on to the next screen.
That's true, I forgot about that one.
But it would be nice to see something like, I don't know, like, hey, like rotate this thing a few times and then it opens a gate and there you go, you can go through. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not a video game designer. I don't know. I didn't start video game company, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. But having said that, you and I did talk about like when we were playing this. This would be a great candidate like for remake. I mean, they could just simply take
a remake, or if somebody just like made a new game with the same kind of gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
you could definitely sell this for $15-$20 maybe.
Oh yeah, sure. And like I mean, it's very, like pinball is still popular today. Breakout style games are still around. So, the formula still works.
I don't know about I don't know what you could say about Zelda and Gradius though. Who knows? I don't know when the next Zelda game's going to be. It's been a while since the Zelda game came out, It
has been a while since the last Gradius game, unfortunately. So
actually, yes.
That's a franchise I miss.
I do actually want to go back to those PlayStation games.
PlayStation games are very good. You should check out the Game Boy ones. The Game Boy ones also.
Oh, I might have to at some point.
Yep, they're
I don't know why I'm saying that, but I might have to go and play the Gradius games for some reason on a handheld.
Yes.
Very subtle.
Yeah,
very subtle hit.
Yeah, George will have an announcement like in this podcast, I suspect. But
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I mentioned most of the good stuff, bad stuff I really liked in this game. Was there anything in this game that struck you either way that I have mentioned or we haven't talked about yet?
Not really. I think the biggest problem was the difficulty.
It's a hard game, but I don't think it's the game.
If you have to retract that statement as you're saying it, that's a bad sign.
Well, I was going to say, let me rephrase this because I was going to say, the game was unfair in parts, but I'm like, pinball is unfair in parts, so it's like that's not really like an accurate. That's not really like a fair thing to say because...
Yeah, it's kind of different, though, because, like, pinball, you're stuck to the layout, whereas, like, in this game, you can kind of take things to your advantage. You know what I mean? Because you can move around and hit the ball. You don't have to stay in the same spot like pinball, so...
True.
I think it being difficult, like, you can't just wave that off and say, oh, well, it's kind of like pinball, and pinball's hard, so... Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with difficulty, but just what they throw at you right away, and also what they do, like when you lose a life, you have to restart the stage, that's fine. When you die 3 times and have to use a continue, it kicks you back out to the world map. I think I already said this, but like that's kind of difficult in a sense where you might be on the last stage of an area. You're about to finish it, and then next thing you know, you got unlucky, you lost your last life. It kicks you all the way back, and it's like, oh, that's kind of rough. Because you have to do all of that over again.
Yep, save states. Yeah, save states are definitely helpful, like in this game.
Yeah, I maybe if they did a thing where like maybe you go a stage back, or I don't know something, or if it just saves your progress, that would be nice to go back to an area and be like, oh, you're on the last stage because that's where you last were. Like, so the way that they explain your revival is that your you turn to stone and then you're just you're turned back into your your normal form, and then you just go back. So it kind of, in a sense, kind of doesn't make sense that you have to do that progress again because you already completed it. You're just being brought back. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just wish it wouldn't kick you all the way back to the beginning, and maybe I'd be able to beat this game.
Yes, that is like very tough. That's for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, like, these flaws aside, some people were complaining online, talking about this game, that everybody recognizes this is a very unique game. I don't think that. So I don't think that. So I don't think there's any question about this. This is definitely a very not original, but a very unique, quirky blending of ideas and game genres together. And I'm a sucker for type of games like this that mash two genres together. But the question online and where people tend to fall on whether they gave it a positive review or not was if they could overcome the shortcomings that this game has. Because for some folks, the flaws in this game are just simply too bad for them to enjoy the game. Whereas people are like, well, it has its flaws, yes, but it's still a fun game despite that. So I think how much you enjoy this game yourself personally depends upon how much tolerance you have for the game's flaws, and if you found them, and if you just simply can deal with them, or if they're simply going to be a deal breaker for you as far as that goes. So
I think it's best played with multiple people.
Oh yes, of course.
It's fun by yourself, but it's kind of difficult playing it by yourself.
Yeah, it can be challenging, for sure. So
yeah,
I think how you come down on it depends upon your tolerance for things like that. So,
yep.
But this is a pretty, like I said, rare game. This is probably
No, Rare didn't develop this. Sorry, I make that joke all the time, don't I?
Well, that's okay. It's a good joke. But...
Give me a smack on the hands. No, I don't know. If I keep saying it, I don't know.
So, this is the game that I found the fewest copies of on eBay as far as an authentic, actual released in the West during the time game. You can find it, but you don't have any choices to pick from, and if you want to, prices are all over the place. As far as the game actually goes, so because there's so few selections, I'm just going to mention the prices, all the prices, because there's only 7 copies of this game currently available for sale on eBay, and only 4 sold recently. That's how rare this game is.
Right.
So card only. This is an outliner. Okay. This one's strange. It says authentic, and it is the North American version of the game, but it also sold by seller in China. So that may explain the really cheap price this game went for, because this game sold altogether, including shipping, for $18.15.
Do we have to do an episode where we talk about fake cartridges and how to point them out? And
well, we have already, not an entire episode, but we have mentioned it in game. But we have mentioned in episodes like Earthbound. There are counterfeit games are very, very common. This game's not really super popular. It's not ever popular. I did not see any reproductions for sale in this game. So, I mean, if the market was there, people would have pirated the game. But the game's not super known or popular, so nobody's bothered with it.
I think one of the bigger things that gets counterfeited would be things like the Pokemon games. So
sure.
not the DS ones, but more of the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance ones. And it's just those ones you definitely have to be wary of. A lot of these SNES games, I don't see too many counterfeits going around, but if you're gonna buy a physical game and you're definitely going on eBay, watch out. First things first, check where the seller's from. China is usually a red flag right away. But a lot of these sellers also don't even put pictures of the actual cartridge. They'll just be a stock photo or something. You gotta really watch out. And like the biggest way to tell, which a lot of people do for the Pokemon games, is like, hey, like I need to see a picture of the motherboard. You know, I need like a close-up shot on the label. And there's a lot of ways to tell with that. And it's not super easy for people who are jumping into it, but like definitely if you're looking to buy physical cartridges of games, like really like I said, SNES and stuff like that, they don't really get counterfeited too much, but you also have to watch it for repros and making sure people are listing them as like the actual cartridge. So it's a big thing, and I don't even know everything about it. I know mostly just about the Pokemon stuff, but it's it's getting worse too, I think, which is a little sad, but
yeah. I'm not seeing an increase. Yeah, I'm not seeing an increase in volume. What is increasing is the quality of the fakes, which is making it much more difficult to tell.
But like I said, it's like not every game is being faked.
Exactly.
Like a lot of the home console stuff is kind of, I don't want to say untouched, but is not as bad as things like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games, like the Pokemon games. So
sure.
It's not as bad as I'm making it sound, but like still be wary of what I mean. That's rule number one when buying stuff on eBay is like be wary, but you know.
Right. Yeah. So all those red flags aside, is probably the reason why this game from China like so cheap. Like it may very well be real. The seller said it was.
Maybe.
But yeah. So
well, because the seller said it's real, I mean, it must be real, right?
Yeah. But on the other hand, though, we have a copy of the game card only. That's sold from that's sold from the U.S. The guy took pictures. He's a great seller. He sells a lot of stuff. No question at all. This is like real copy of the game. You don't even want to know how much this game is like sold for.
$500.
It's not that crazy, but for card only, it's pretty outrageous. $125.
What?
Yes, I'm dead serious.
That is pretty ridiculous.
And the last two copies of the game that sold were complete. So you can imagine those prices.
That's a little ridiculous.
So one of them sold. So one of them sold almost complete. It has all the inserts except for the poster. There was a poster that came with the game also. So this version, so this game, mint condition, just had everything except for the poster. For shipping included, it's over $205.
Wow.
And then one that did have the poster, so over $249.
I think I'd pay a maximum of $40 for this game, maybe.
So yeah, like I said, rare game, very expensive. If more people knew if this game was more popular, I imagine these prices would be even like more crazy, and people would be making bootlegs of this.
Probably.
But like I said, it's not very well known. I never heard of the game, and just like you mentioned it. So we will see if our podcast has any has a Ferg effect on this.
Yeah, everyone's selling their Firestriker for $1 million now. Weird, huh? That's how that works out.
Yep. So
that's weird. Somebody bought it for $5 million. That's weird. We didn't even put the podcast out now, and people are just buying it left and right for $5 million. Weird, huh?
Right.
If I see a copy of Firestriker on eBay for $5 million now, I swear.
Well, there is a copy of the game listed. There's a copy of the game available for sale right now on eBay that's sealed.
So how much is that?
They're asking $870.
How about I'll give you $850 less than that, and we'll be good.
The Japanese version of this game is much cheaper. So
of course it is.
If you want to get it, if you can play it and want that copy, the Japanese version maybe the way to go.
You could probably get Super Famicom for cheaper than an SNES as well. So there you go. Just buy Japanese games.
Yep, there's a Japanese copy of the game being listed. Japanese copy of the game you saw right now for $40, which seems fair.
Even I have a Super Famicom. I mean, come on.
There are people who are trying to. We've talked about this mess before in the past. That crap VGA grading. Where they're trying to. Some copies of the game went through that. They're trying to still get it. Trying to get that thousands of dollars.
Get out of here.
Now, how's this for outrageous? Somebody's selling the registration card for the game by itself.
For how much?
For $30.
I thought maybe like a couple of dollars. We're like, oh, that's a funny thing to buy. Nice little novelty.
Now, I'm sure this is very rare. So I guess what it's worth to you depends upon how much of a collector that you are.
I guess maybe some kind of collector might buy it and then put it in like a display case. I don't know.
Well, there are 2,600 card collectors who have paid that much for registration cards to complete their game. Like I said,
they're crazy.
Well, you can argue that. That's been argued before in the past, but I mean, like
this
the old
is
saying,
the developer's sweaty socks, $5,000. Oh my god! Will you take 6?
So yeah, like the old saying goes, what something's worth is like what somebody's like willing to pay for it.
I'll steal it twice the price.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so you maybe probably unless you're rich, you're probably better off going to be emulating this game. Somebody's also trying to sell the manual by itself for $38.
That's a little more all right. 38's a little too much maybe for that. Maybe 20, but
and they're also and like one more. There's also somebody who's selling the box of the game by itself for $70.
70?
Yes.
No, thank you.
So, I mean, great condition box, but yeah.
I'd rather buy all the copies of Gran Turismo 3. Oh wait, I don't think a lot of people will get that joke. Never mind.
Yeah. So.
No.
As a side note, did you see a picture? Did you see a picture of the box art?
I did.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty generic.
Yep.
I think they'd be better off with just a fireball, and then inside the fireball it had the name. I think that would be actually better.
I can agree with that. Sure.
Yeah, because it's guy with sword with fireball, and the
wizard's not even.
Oh wow!
The wizard's in the background. The background, like, not doing anything.
I mean, he doesn't do anything in general.
So anyway, if you enjoy breakout style games, if you enjoy pinball style games, this is a game that probably like appeal to you very strongly. Because it's a very unique, interesting take like those they take like those genres.
Would you say if people like Zelda, they'd like this?
Well, there's a little bit of Zelda aspects to it. But,
maybe, but it definitely doesn't play like Zelda.
No, yeah.
At least I don't think it does. I don't know what Zelda plays like.
No. I think this game. Well, you will find out eventually because we are going to have Ferg like that game eventually. So.
I think I'm getting illness. Like I'm sick, Greg.
I think this game's probably 45% Breakout, 45% Pinball, 4% Zelda, and 1% Gradius. That's a pie chart that I cannot get behind, Greg. How big is that 1% gonna be? Very tiny. I can hardly see it. You gotta do one of those things where you put like a line to it and say like, hey, it's like a map of the U.S. where like all the small states have to have lines going across the map and saying, oh, hey, by the way, like this is like New Hampshire. It's so tiny that we can't even put the letters there. No, New Hampshire always shows up. It's my state, Rhode Island, that always gets the shaft because it's the smallest state in the country. I've seen a couple of maps that are like, hey, these states are too small to warrant letters on top of them. Yeah, it depends. It depends upon the map. Like what you're trying to do with it. So, but anyway, I want a pie chart that looks like Pac-Man. That's all I want. So, George, now that you play this game, did it live up to the hype that it created, like in your mind, upon trying to find out what this like weird, strange game was?
Didn't really have any hype in my mind. It just looked like a cool game. Okay, let's play it. All right, cool. It's a cool game.
But you wanted to at least like it. You didn't
I wanted to try it. I don't.
Yeah.
I think you wanted to really like it. I don't know.
Well,
are you self-reflecting? I don't know.
Well, I mean, like
this isn't like a new game is coming out. Oh my god, I'm super hyped for it, and then it's super disappointing. It's so bad because it's not what I want. No, it's just like, I don't know, this looks kind of cool. I don't know, let me check it out. Oh, it is kind of cool. There was no really hype for it.
But you wanted the game to be good, so, and at least it was.
I mean, I want every game to be good. like bad games are disappointing, but like, I mean,
bad games can be fun to talk about.
I guess. But like, also, like, it'd be nice to play a good game too.
There are podcasts out there dedicated. There are podcasts out there dedicated to talking about nothing but bad games.
PlayStation Power.
No, actually, we have to. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting chart to make up someday. Take a look at the games that podcast be like, because I think the ratio for good to bad on that one is probably more bound toward a probably more skewed, a little bit more toward balanced for the Two Brains podcast, where I think the ratio is overwhelming in favor of good versus bad games. That'd be interesting chart to look at someday.
I was thinking of starting a spreadsheet listing off the games that we covered and
good idea, saying
which ones that either that you or I liked or whatever.
Sorry. One quick side note I just noticed. I'm still looking at this. I still have this eBay auction up for one of the sealed, like one of the complete copies listed. The guy's selling it locally, Jewett City, Connecticut. That's about an hour drive from here. So
that's like I don't know how far that is for me, but I could take a ferry for about an hour and be in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'll meet you halfway, and then we'll find that guy and beat him up and steal his copy of Firestriker.
You can drive.
Oh, I gotta cut this out of the podcast now. It's evidence against us. Don't arrest me.
You can drive to. Yeah, you can drive to Connecticut for Connecticut. It's like a lot less than for a lot quicker than an hour. I mean, there are lots of
from where I live.
Right.
It would take much longer to actually drive to Connecticut.
There are lots of folks who live in Bridgeport County, working like New York City. For
I'd have to go through New York City, and that takes too long.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, it would take, because then I'd have to go partly upstate New York to come around.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's why people take the ferry to Connecticut, because it's faster.
If there was no traffic, you could do that in less than an hour.
I mean, sure, like, yeah, and if the world was smaller, it'd be even quicker to get there, right? like taking away traffic is not a thing that you will be able to do, Greg. Like, it'd probably be more possible to shrink the world to get there faster than it would to get rid of the traffic.
But anyway, okay. We've gone off tangent enough. Let's wrap this podcast up.
Fun police game. Wee woo.
So, want to thank you very much, as always, for listening to the podcast. We very much appreciate your support.
You're welcome, Greg.
If you have any questions, comments, feedback, etc., you can always contact us either on our Facebook page, or you can also send me an email directly to the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. I also would like to thank the people who are backing us on Patreon, which can be found at www.patreon.com /Super NES podcast.
Who's backing us on Patreon?
Richard and Swin.
Ooh.
I believe I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if not. Yeah, and if you want to back us for as little as $1, you can get some like cool perks such as like early access to the podcast, getting your name shouted out at every episode, or being able to dictate a bad game if you want to for us to play.
Oh no more Donkey Kong Country.
That's not a bad game.
I don't like it.
you don't like platformers in general, so that's so.
Well, exactly. I like good games, Greg.
Right.
Like Super Mario Brothers.
Well, the next game.
That joke doesn't make any sense because I was inferring that platformers are bad, but then I said a game I like was a platformer. Anyway.
Well, the next game we're covering has some platform elements to it, but it's it's not really a platformer per se. But no, we're going to be covering a game that I played like back in the day. I remember like really liking it and not played, I've not played since then. So I'm curious to see.
UN Squadron. Welcome to terrible jokes that I stopped doing that I'm going to do again. 2019, everybody. All right, go on. What game is it?
We're covering a game called Cybernator. Part of a series actually, which only came out, which never. Most of the games did come out here in the West, but they never stressed the series. It was always like standalone games, curiously enough. So
known as Assault Suits Valken.
Yes, in Japan.
Also known as a better name than Cybernator.
It was developed by a small company called Masaya, but most people know this as a Konami game because it's localized and published by Konami.
Yep.
So, it's a very unique mech slash robot based action game with a pretty cool sci-fi story. So,
did you know people also search for Target Earth, Metal Warriors, Front Mission Gun Hazard, Axlay, and Demon's Crest?
Most of the games we've already covered.
There's also a 1991 film called Cybernator. It was directed by Robert Rundle.
I did not know that.
And IMDb gives it a 2.5 out of 10.
Oh boy.
A detective combats renegade cyborgs trained as military assassins in a bleak future. I might need to watch this movie and see how bad it is.
Right. Yep. So anyway, George and I also do together the PlayStation Power podcast where we cover, currently as of right now at least, PSP, PS1, and PS2 games that may be changing in the future. So
we're not changing anything. We might be adding things, but
adding. It's like tomato. Like
those plans are not for. Let's not super get into it.
Right.
I'll tell you after we're done recording.
Right. We can do that like in our on that podcast. If you're curious, like tune into that podcast.
Yeah.
George,
where you like tangents, so that's the podcast.
Speaking about tangents, George teased a different podcast earlier. Do you want to give us some details about that, George?
Nope.
You're keeping a secret?
Sure.
Okay. Well, what other podcasts do you do that you're prepared to publicly talk about this?
I do Master System Masterpieces, where we talk about Master System games, and that's about it. We talked about the other one I do, so.
Okay.
Cool. It's a podcast about video games.
Yes, it is. So, all right. Final thought. I definitely agree with George here. This is a game I really would love to see like remade. Because they're very unique. And I think a modern game could definitely smooth out some of the wrinkles and flaws that this version of the game had.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. So I would say I would say to get on it like any developers, but I'm sure they have enough ideas brewing around in their heads.
Jump on it.
But I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely going to be curious. So anyway, thank you again, everybody out there for listening. Thank you again for support 2018, and we have a lot more great games and great coverage and guest hosts planned for you this year. So stay tuned for all that fun stuff.
Yay, video games.
Right. Yep.
Left.
Right.
Left.
Up.
Down. Up, down, left, right, circle, upside down, brownie face, airplane.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking winding again.
If we were doing a Konami game, this episode is post next episode, so we could finish with like finish a joke about the Konami code, but we're not, so we won't.
Eh.
Okay.
You know what my favorite part about the Konami code? Sometimes it actually kills you in certain games.
The Gradius 3 did that.
Yep.
But unless you use the code with the L and R button instead.
Right.
Yep. So very sneaky Konami. So
Very funny.
we will get into that probably more in the next episode. So stay tuned.
Maybe. Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Steampunk power.